Today we have a 1998 Dodge Dakota pickup, 3.9 liter. It is a four-wheel drive vehicle, and we're going to be putting brake calipers and hoses on it. It's already got new brake rotors installed, but one of the calipers was hanging up, so we're going to go ahead and replace the calipers now. Basically, we got the wheel off already. The caliper and the hose, since we're replacing it at the same time, this hose, you follow it from the caliper all the way back. It goes up and around and hooks here. So we're going to basically disconnect the hose here. Then we're going to unbolt the caliper and take this whole piece off at once and lay it off to the side. It's basically taking two steps and turning it into one. Then what we'll do is install the new caliper, feed the new brake line down, connect it up, bleed the caliper, and we'll be good to go. Okay, these are the tools required to do this job. Basically, we have a torque wrench for tightening the wheels back up, breaker bar with a 19mm socket, that's for breaking the lug nuts loose, just a standard flathead screwdriver, a pair of diagonal cutters, also called dikes, a 12-inch wrench, a 13-inch wrench, a 15-inch wrench, and a 16-inch wrench. Two of these are required because we're taking a brake hose off. Otherwise, if you were just doing a standard brake caliper, you wouldn't really need these to take the brake caliper off. Then we've got a Torx socket here to get the caliper off, and a 12 and a 14mm socket to get the bolts holding the brake hose to the caliper off. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take the caliper off. We're going to use this Torx bit. It's a T45 Torx, and we're going to use a 3/8 drive ratchet. And these are basic standard caliper sizes. A T45 is very common. You can use air tools here. However, when you go to put it back together, you want to be real careful. If you're a professional and know how tight to go, you're fine. If you're a do-it-yourselfer and you over-tighten things, it's very easy to break or strip out bolts. So you want to be very careful. When in doubt, or if you're not sure, just use a hand ratchet. I like to use it anyway because you just get a good feel for how this stuff comes off and on. There's only two bolts that hold this caliper on, the two T45 Torx bolts. Most vehicles have 4 bolts, 2 for the caliper and 2 for the bracket. These are actually very nice and easy because they only have 2. There's one little trick to get this caliper off. A lot of times you'll fight with it. You got the 2 bolts out, and if you try to take it off from the top, even though that time it came off, it doesn't always come off. So this clip down here, if you just pop it outside of the bracket and lift it up from the bottom, it'll actually come right off like so, instead of fighting it. And then basically you want to lay the caliper off to the side. It doesn't really matter if you hang it by the hose because we're replacing the hose. Okay, so basically to separate this brake line, it's very easy. The steel line going into the brake hose is got a 12mm end on it, and the receiving end of the brake hose has a 16mm. You'd want to use good wrenches, preferably line wrenches. Line wrenches are specifically for brake lines or transmission lines, and they prevent you from stripping or rounding off the heads of the bolt or the hex on it. So we don't have line wrenches here. We're just going to use good wrenches. They do fit properly. When you use cheaper tools, this is where you can sometimes find out how a cheaper tool is not worth using, because if you round the ends off of these, you'll have a hard time retightening it, and the next time somebody needs to take them off, they're going to be in big trouble, and that could be you. So pay attention and don't slip and round these off. You basically want to hold the big nut and loosen the small nut. Once you get it going, you can remove the other one like that and just keep working on that. Once you get it loose, you can pull it back. You'll know it's loose. And then before you can take this out, there's actually a clip here. You can grab a pair of diagonal cutters and grab it by the corner. You don't want to cut it, but you want to just move it and start trying to pull it off. It's been in there a long time. It's probably all rusted up. Start wiggling on it, it'll start moving, and eventually it'll come out of there. And that's what the clip looks like. You want to keep that. That will be reused. You're going to use that to put the new brake hose and hold it in the proper place. So make sure you keep that. You will need to reuse that. Okay, so basically we just got to take this hold down bolt off. We've already got it started. Just remove that bolt. And then we're able to remove this brake line. It is hooked to the caliper, and there's a little clip here that this inserts into the control arm to keep it there. Once that's loose, you may have to tap on this a little bit because it has been in there a long time. You can also grab a screwdriver and just kind of work it out. And it's actually, the hole is hexed just like the head of the bolt. So you gotta take it out. It's like a toy as a kid. The hole that this fits into is hexed exactly like this. So if you don't have that turned right, you'll be sitting there forever trying to get it out. So look at it closely, turn it, and it'll slide out. So we have our nice brand new loaded brake caliper. It's called loaded because it has the brake pads already loaded with it. It also has all the hardware and bolts that come with it. So everything's needed to install the caliper. These are very, very nice. The unloaded calipers are basically the same, they just don't have pads on them. You can buy them any way. If you buy them loaded, it's usually cheaper because you get the brake pads already and you don't have to fight with installing them, and you have all nice new hardware and everything. So we sell these brand new loaded calipers on our website, autopartsdirecttoyou.com. Please check it out. We have them for virtually every make and model available. When you go to install this, a couple things. Number one, it's very easy to put this caliper on backwards, believe it or not. People do it all the time. This caliper is almost identical to the other side. The only thing different is the location of the bleeder screw and the location where the brake hose is going to hook to. Rule of thumb, if you do this wrong, you'll figure it out quickly because you won't be able to bleed the brakes. The reason the bleeder screw is at the top is because that's where all the air is going to accumulate. So if you were to put this on upside down, you're never going to be able to bleed it, because if you break this bleeder open, the air is still going to be sitting up here as the brake fluid's rushing out. So make sure every time you put calipers on or anything hydraulic, if there's a bleeder screw, it typically will always be at the topmost position. So basically a trick, you'll have this clip here. You also have the feet of the brake pads. You want to just make sure you put the clip in first. And as you can see, you watch the feet of the brake pad. The feet of the brake pad should be on the outside. The clip should be on the inside. And if you do that, and make sure the bottom's in first, and make sure that clip is in, your caliper will fall right into place. Instead of fighting with it, it's right where it needs to be. You can actually screw the hold down bolts in right now, and they'll go in nice and straight. So we'll go ahead and start these bolts just to hold the caliper in place for us. If you're basically doing a brake job and you can't get a caliper to line up or a brake pads to line up, you need to just take a step back and look at what's going on, because usually the problem is just something's not lined up properly. You really never have to force anything. These things go together kind of like a Lego set. They're very simple. Everything has its spot and everything needs to be in the correct spot.